Do you want to raise bilingual, trilingual, or even multilingual kids in 2025, but you're not sure where to start? I've got you covered. This video is a complete mini course offering a complete step-by-step guide to get started. I'll walk you through my complete 5-step beginner guide, which I've created for parents just like you. You can download the 48-page PDF absolutely for free. After watching this video, you'll know the exact steps you need to take to raise your child to speak more than one language in 2025 and beyond. Let's dive in. Hello! Happy New Year! I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas and New Year holiday. To those of you new to my channel, my name is Kayi. Welcome. I am a professional translator, a member of the Chartered Institute of Linguists, and a UK-based mum actively raising my children to be trilingual in Chinese, Russian, and English. I'm the creator of this YouTube channel and the Multilingual Family Hub website. My book Bilingual and Trilingual Parenting 101, linked down below, has sold thousands of copies on Amazon, helping families just like yours. Last year, I created a free 48-page 5-step guide to help parents who are embarking on this journey but are not sure where to start. If that's you and you don't want to commit to reading a full-length book just yet, this video and the PDF are made for you. In step 1, you'll discover the fundamental principles of raising multilingual children. In step 2, you'll learn about the 3 main language strategies for multilingual families. In step 3, you'll make a plan. I've made a separate PDF and video for this step as part of the mini course, so be sure to check them out. In step 4, I'll explain how to put your plan into action. And finally, in step 5, I'll help you troubleshoot the most common problems and offer tips on implementing everything you've learned in this course to maximize your chance of success. Make sure you download the PDF for this course using the link in the description box below so you can follow along. Alternatively, you can of course watch this video first, download the guide later, and come back to this video anytime. I also encourage you to take notes as you watch this video so you can review the notes when needed, and more crucially, take action and implement what you've learned in this course. Everything will be timestamped so you can find the information you need easily. So without further ado, let's dive in. Right, before getting to the 5-step process, I want to quickly tell you about my own journey raising trilingual children and why I ended up writing my book and creating this YouTube channel and all that stuff. Feel free to skip ahead to step 1 if this is not of interest to you, but I thought knowing about our journey will provide some inspiration and motivation and insights. Basically, I began raising my children to be trilingual in Chinese, Russian, and English back in 2016 when my first child was born. Let me tell you, those early years were tough. There weren't many resources specifically for trilingual families like ours, and we faced quite a few challenges. Essentially, we had no idea what we were doing. We were, to put it simply, winging it. While my son could understand all 3 languages, he only spoke English. It wasn't until I had a chance encounter with a French dad who was raising his children to be bilingual that things started to turn around for us. I applied his advice and incredibly within 3 months, my son began speaking both Russian and Chinese. Feel free to check out a video I made specifically in relation to that transformation linked down below. So I wanted to create the resource I wish I had had, which led to my book Bilingual and Trilingual Parenting 101, a practical handbook for multilingual families. Since its first release in 2021, it's now reached thousands of families worldwide, and I'm so grateful for the feedback from parents who found it helpful. But I know that not everyone has the time to read a full-length book, which is why I created this shorter but still jam-packed ebook. My goal is simple: to equip you with the essential information you need to get started on your journey. By the end of this video and the PDF ebook, you'll have a solid understanding of the core principles behind raising bilingual or trilingual children. You'll also know how to create a family language plan that works for your unique situation and get tips on how to put everything into action. So let's get straight to step 1. Step 1, understanding the fundamental principles. Before diving into the practical aspects of raising a bilingual, trilingual, or multilingual child, it's crucial to grasp 3 fundamental principles that form the foundation of success, in my opinion. It's like building a house, you have to get the foundation right first. Understanding these concepts will help guide you throughout the journey and keep you grounded when the going gets tough. Fundamental principle 1, exposure times need. Language acquisition boils down to a simple equation: exposure times need. These 2 elements are key to a child becoming actively bilingual or trilingual. I've made a separate video explaining this equation. You'll find a link to the video in the description box below. Just an interesting side note, I used to formulate this as exposure plus need based on Adam Beck's book, but one of my regular viewers on YouTube rightly pointed out that exposure times need is actually more appropriate because the 2 elements have a multiplier effect on each other. So exposure refers to how much time your child spends hearing and interacting with the target language. The term target language refers to the language you would like your child to learn and use. If you want your child to speak French, for instance, French is your target language. For language acquisition to happen, your child needs sufficient and meaningful exposure to the target language. This means not just hearing the language passively, but also engaging with it actively through conversation, play, stories, songs, daily routines, etc. The more varied the exposure, the better. Primarily, exposure correlates with language input. However, a need is equally important. Children are highly adaptive and they tend to focus their efforts on what's necessary. If your child doesn't need to speak the target language, they may choose not to speak it even if they understand it, resulting in passive bilingualism. So passive bilingualism means that your child can understand the language but not speak it. There is nothing wrong with passive bilingualism, but in my experience, most parents would ideally like their children to be able to speak the target language as well, which is why this equation is so important. One thing to understand is this: children, just like adults, are prone to taking the path of least resistance. This is especially common in multilingual families where children often switch back to the language they are most comfortable with, which is usually the majority language spoken in school or the wider community. To encourage the use of the target language, you need to create situations where your child must use it to communicate. For example, if a grandparent only speaks Russian and your child needs to communicate with them to get something, this creates a natural need for them to speak Russian. You can set up these types of situations through arranging playdates with children who only speak the target language, or trips to countries where the target language is spoken. However, if these options aren't feasible, it's crucial to establish the right environment at home. This can be achieved by setting clear family rules and expectations, ensuring your child understands that the target language should be consistently spoken within the household. Exposure and need go hand in hand. If there's enough exposure but no need to use the language, your child may passively understand it but won't feel motivated to speak. Conversely, if there's a need but minimal exposure, they'll struggle to learn because the foundation isn't there. So striking the right balance is crucial. Fundamental principle 2, consistency. The second principle is consistency. Language learning in both adults and kids requires repeated and sustained effort over time. If exposure to the target language is sporadic, it's much harder for the child to develop fluency or confidence. It's essential to be consistent in terms of how and when the target language is used. If you've been watching my other videos for a while, you know how much I bang on about consistency. It really is the key to success when it comes to raising bilingual or multilingual children. Trust me, in multilingual households, there are different methods or strategies parents used to maintain consistency. You'll find out more about these strategies in the next step, but in a nutshell, they include the following: OPOL, one parent, one language. This strategy involves each parent speaking a different language to the child, ensuring consistent exposure to both languages. Minority language at home, MLAH. This strategy involves using the target language at home while the child learns the majority language, which is the language of the society, outside the home. Time and place strategy. This strategy involves designating certain times of day or specific activities like meal times or bedtime for the target language or each target language. Whichever strategy you choose, the most important thing is to stick to it. Inconsistent exposure can lead to confusion and slower language development. People often mistakenly think that raising your child to speak more than one language can cause confusion, but that's simply not true. It is inconsistency that causes confusion, okay? Essentially, it all comes down to routine. Numerous studies have shown that children simply thrive on routine. Over time, children thrive when they know what to expect. So, for example, if your plan is to speak Mandarin with your child during, let's say, breakfast, try to do it every day rather than just when it's convenient or when you feel like it. That said, life happens. Don't stress about being perfect. Flexibility is fine, but try to keep your overall approach as steady as possible. In short, aim for consistency as much as possible, but don't sweat over the occasional slip-ups. Fundamental principle 3, patience and long-term goals. The final principle is patience. Language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. Sorry if this sounds really cliched, but it's so true, especially in the context of raising a multilingual child. It's easy to feel frustrated when progress feels slow or when your child resists speaking the target language. But remember, every child is different and there will always be ups and downs. Look, I've been doing this for 8 years now and we still have ups and downs. It's all part of the process. My advice is to focus on long-term goals rather than short-term frustrations or setbacks. Keep in mind that raising a bilingual or trilingual child is a gift that will last a lifetime, even if the results aren't immediate. Some children may have silent periods where they seem to understand but don't speak the language. This is completely normal too. It can be normal. It's important not to give up or force them to speak before they are ready. Having said that, if your child can speak fluently in the majority language but refuses to speak the target language despite understanding it, to me that would suggest that your child's mental hardware, so to speak, is ready, but maybe you're not addressing one or both of the two elements in the exposure times need equation discussed earlier adequately. In any case, I encourage you to continue to create a supportive, positive environment where the target language is naturally woven into their daily life. Celebrate small wins, like when they say the first words in the language, and be patient with the setbacks, because there will be setbacks. Progress might be slow at times, but if you remain consistent and keep the long-term goal in mind, your child should eventually begin using the language more actively. Key takeaway in summary: the three fundamental principles, exposure, times need, consistency, and patience, are the foundation of successfully raising a multilingual child. So that's step 1 of the 5-step process. Step 2, understanding the main language strategies. Now let's move on to step 2 of the process. In this step, we'll take a closer look at the 3 main language strategies that I alluded to earlier in step 1. If you are new to the world of multilingual parenting, one of the first things you need to consider is choosing a language strategy that suits your family. There are 3 main strategies that families around the world have successfully used: one parent, one language, OPOL, minority language at home, MLAH, and the time and place strategy, TMP. Let's dive into each one and explore how they work in practice. First up, one parent, one language, OPOL or OPOL. What is OPOL? In this strategy, each parent consistently speaks a different language to the child. For example, one parent might speak only English while the other speaks only Chinese. This approach helps ensure that the child gets clear and consistent exposure to both or more languages and associates each language with one parent. Let's run through a case study. Imagine a family where the mother speaks Spanish and the father speaks French. From birth, each parent communicates exclusively in their language. The child naturally learns to differentiate between the two languages because each language is linked to a specific parent. At mealtimes, when the family is together, the child might respond to the mother in Spanish and turn to the father to answer in French. This dual exposure allows the child to gradually develop fluency in both languages. OPOL is also the strategy that my husband and I use to raise our own children to be trilingual. My husband speaks to the kids exclusively in Russian, while I speak to them exclusively in Chinese. They get English from everything else. For the most part, it's worked really well for us, and from what I have seen, OPOL is often the option trilingual families naturally gravitate towards. Why does this approach work? OPOL is one of the most common strategies because it ensures balanced language input and helps avoid confusion. Each parent is a bit like a language representative, so the child associates each language with a specific person. However, it's even better if the child gets exposure to both languages outside of the home as well. You should also consider maximizing exposure to each target language through things like incorporating TV and books into your routine, or having playdates in both languages to maintain balanced language growth. Next up, minority language at home, MLAH. Now let's take a look at the minority language at home strategy. First of all, let's define the term minority language. Essentially, it is the language spoken by fewer people in the surrounding environment. And in our current context, it's usually the language spoken at home by one or both parents. With this strategy, the minority language is spoken exclusively at home, while the community or majority language is learned outside of the home, usually through school, friends, and the wider community. This strategy is particularly useful when parents want to ensure the child has a strong foundation in a less commonly spoken language. Right, let's take a family living in the UK where the community language is English. Both parents who are from, let's say, Hong Kong speak Cantonese as their native language, and they want to make sure that their child grows up fluent in Cantonese. So at home, they create a Cantonese-only environment. The child speaks and hears only Cantonese with their parents, while learning English naturally through school and daily interactions with the outside world. Minority language at home is particularly effective when parents want to strengthen a minority language that might otherwise get crowded out by the dominant language of the community. The home becomes a safe haven for the minority language, ensuring the child gets plenty of exposure to it. One challenge, though, is that children might resist speaking the minority language as they become more comfortable in the majority language, something parents need to be mindful of. Next up, time and place strategy. Now let's move on to strategy number 3, the time and place strategy. Essentially, this approach divides the use of languages by time or place. For example, you might speak one language during the weekdays and another language on weekends, or one language at home and another at school or in specific settings. The goal is to create clear and consistent boundaries or divisions between the use of different languages based on context. This strategy can be a bit hard to get your head around, so let's look at an example. Let's consider a family where both parents are bilingual in Mandarin and English. They decide that Mandarin will be spoken every evening after school and during weekends, while English will be the language for mornings and school-related activities. This creates a routine for the child where each language is tied to specific times of day, making it easier to navigate and manage the language learning. The time and place strategy can be really flexible, allowing parents to adapt the language environment depending on their circumstances. It's particularly useful in families where parents are both bilingual or when additional caregivers like grandparents are involved. The key here is consistency in when and where each language is used, so the child knows what to expect. Be prepared to be flexible. While these are the main 3 strategies, it's important to remember that no 2 families are the same. What works for one family might not work for another, and that's okay. And you don't have to rigidly stick to one strategy. You can mix and match these strategies to suit your family's needs. For example, you might start with OPOL but shift to minority language at home as your child grows older, or you might find that a time and place approach works best when your schedule changes. It's also crucial to remain flexible as your child's language journey evolves. In our experience, we found that no strategy works perfectly 100% of the time. The best approach is to focus on what feels right for your family at this stage while being open to adapting your strategy as needed. For us, for example, while we mostly practice one parent, one language at home, we also incorporate elements of the time and place strategy into our routine because we have to help our children with their, let's say, English homework, which makes it necessary to use English with them. Also, when we are all eating together as a family, we typically speak English so that we can have a naturally flowing conversation. Another example is that when we are with my parents, we switch to English, so my stepfather doesn't feel excluded when he is directly involved in a conversation, as my stepfather only speaks English. So whichever strategy you choose, the goal is to create a nurturing environment where your child can naturally absorb and use the languages around them. So whether you stick to one strategy or combine them, the most important thing is that your child gets consistent, meaningful exposure to the languages you teach. Step 3, make a plan. Okay, now that we know what the 3 main language strategies are, let's move on to step 3 of the 5-step process. Make a plan. Here's the thing, guys. When we first started our journey of raising a trilingual child 8 years ago, we had no plan at all. We knew we wanted our son to grow up speaking Chinese, Russian, and English, but we didn't know how to make it happen. We simply assumed that speaking all 3 languages to him would be enough. But as time went on, we realized that our approach wasn't working as well as we had hoped. Our son understood all 3 languages, but he preferred speaking only English. It became clear that we needed a plan, something concrete to guide us through the process. Why is having a plan so important? Without a structured plan, it's easy to get overwhelmed. Raising a multilingual child requires consistency, effort, and a clear understanding of your goals. It's not enough to just expose your child to the language. You also need to think about how that exposure happens, when it happens, and in what context. And that's why having a well thought out language plan is so crucial. It helps you stay on track, especially on those days when it feels like nothing is working. It gives you a framework to refer to and adjust as your child grows. And it allows you to map out how to achieve your long-term goals. Plus, it's a useful way to track progress and identify any obstacles early on. Download my family language planner template to help you get started. I've created a family language planner template, which you can download using the link in the description box below. This planner will help you identify your goals, choose your language strategies, and lay out a realistic plan to implement those goals. By filling out the template, you'll have a clear roadmap that will guide you through your bilingual or trilingual parenting journey. In fact, I've made a separate video to walk you through the templates. Be sure to check out that video and actually write down your plan as you follow along. The link to the video is also in the description box below. But as part of this video, I'll give you a quick breakdown of what this step involves. First, identify your goals. The first step in making your plan is to identify your goals. Ask yourself, what languages do you want your child to learn? How proficient do you want them to be in each language? For example, do you want them to be conversationally fluent or literate, meaning being able to read and write in the target language as well? Are there specific cultural or family-related reasons why certain languages are important to you? Once you've established these goals, you can start thinking about the practical steps to achieve them. Secondly, think about how you will achieve your goals. To achieve your language goals, you need to make decisions about exposure and need. Remember step 1? And think about how you ensure consistent use of each language in your child's life. Your plan should include daily exposure. How much time each day will be dedicated to the target languages? Which language strategy will you use to start with? Creating need. How will you motivate your child to use the languages? Will you create situations where they must speak the target language? For example, play dates, visits with family, language immersion activities, etc. Family involvement. Who will help with language learning? Will extended family members, caregivers, or teachers be part of your plan? As you map up these steps, don't forget to build in some flexibility. The truth is, life will inevitably throw curveballs. You might move to a new country. The weekend language school your child goes to might close down. This happened to us. My son's Chinese school closed down when COVID hit in 2020, forcing us to change tack and try other things. But these uncertainties and unforeseen circumstances are precisely why you need a good plan and anchor. A good plan will help you stay focused on your goals and also give you the space to adjust as needed. By the end of this step, you should have a clear picture of your language goals, a strategy for achieving them, and the confidence to move forward on this exciting journey. Let's move on to the next step, where we will talk about how to bring your plan to life in daily routines. Step 4, put your plan into action. Now that you've created your family language plan, it's time to take the most important step, putting your plan into action, which is step 4 of our 5-step process. While having a plan is crucial, a plan is useless if you don't execute it or if you do it half-heartedly, right? This step is all about turning your ideas into daily habits that will help your child progress on their bilingual, trilingual, or multilingual journey. Why taking action matters. Look, I get it. It's easy to get stuck in the planning phase, especially when raising a multilingual child can seem like such a daunting task. But remember, progress happens through consistent effort over time. Your plan is the foundation, but what will truly shape your child's language development is how you apply it in real life. You can have the best plan in the world, but if you keep delaying taking action until the perfect moment arrives, whatever that means, you will not achieve the language goals you've got in mind for your child. By putting your plan into action, you are setting the wheels in motion to create an environment where your child is exposed to their target languages and has opportunities to use them regularly. The key is to start right now and build momentum. Don't wait for the perfect moment to begin. There is no perfect moment. Start today, even if it's just by introducing a few simple routines in your child's daily life. These are some of the building blocks. Consistency is key. So one of the biggest factors in successful multilingual parenting is consistency. As you begin to implement your plan, it's important to stick to the strategies you've chosen as much as possible. Remember, children thrive on routine and repetition, not least when it comes to language acquisition. Regular exposure to the target language, along with consistent use of it, helps language skills become more ingrained. That said, life is unpredictable, and there will be days when things don't go according to plan, and that's okay. What matters is getting back on track. even if your child doesn't use the target language every single day, as long as there's steady and frequent exposure, they will make progress. Be kind to yourself as a parent too. You are doing an amazing job just by taking these steps to raise a multilingual child. Another building block is building a support network. Another key part of putting your plan into action is surrounding yourself with a support network. Multilingual parenting can feel isolating at times, especially if you are the only one in your immediate circle raising a child in multiple languages. That's why it's important to build a network of people who share your goals, whether they are friends, family members, or an online community. Reach out to other parents who are on the same journey. Share your experiences, challenges, and tips. You would be surprised at how much you can learn from others and how encouraging it can be to know that you are not alone. Subscribe to my channel, as my viewers often discuss their journeys and challenges in the comment section. Also, if possible, try to create playgroups or find activities where your child can interact with other multilingual children, or where they can practice the target languages with native speakers. In addition to social support, look for educational support as well. Consider enrolling your child in language classes or programs. Find language learning resources, or even consider hiring a tutor. Having these structures in place will make it easier for your child to maintain the language skills. Take us as an example. Our children have been going to a weekend Russian school for over 5 years, and it has been an invaluable source of support and resource. We also regularly meet up with my Chinese friends and their children to give our kids the chance to use their Chinese language skills in real life situations. And of course, spending time with their Chinese grandmother on a regular basis is a big part of that support network as well. Building block 3, celebrate the small wins. Lastly, don't forget to celebrate the small wins along the way. It sounds like a big cliche, but trust me, language learning is a marathon, not a sprint. I know I said it before, but I'll say it again. So it's important to acknowledge and celebrate every milestone, no matter how small. Did your child use a new word in a target language? That's a win. Did they manage a whole sentence or interact with somebody in the target language? Allow yourself to do a little victory dance. Okay, dancing is optional. Another thing to keep in mind is that keeping track of your child's progress will help you stay motivated. It will remind you of how far you've come when you feel stuck. I recommend keeping a journal of your child's language progress. You can just use any notebook, but just so you know, I've created my own journal designed for multilingual families. Feel free to check it out. You can buy the printed version from Amazon. It's $10.99, but most of it actually goes towards Amazon printing and shipping costs. If you would rather save some money and print it out yourself, a lot of money actually, you can download the printable PDF version directly from my store, links down below. Thanks guys. By putting your plan into action with consistency and support, you are setting your child up for success. This multilingual parenting journey will present many challenges, but with patience, dedication, and the right strategies, you will be amazed at the progress your child will make. Step 5, navigating challenges and staying patient. Congratulations! You've reached step 5 of our 5-step process. This step is all about navigating the challenges that will inevitably come your way. Remember, raising a multilingual child isn't a one and done task, okay? It's an ongoing journey that evolves as your child grows and reaches new milestones. Along the way, you encounter a bunch of challenges, some of which might catch you by surprise. But honestly, every family raising multilingual children will face obstacles, so you are not alone. The key to success lies in resilience, being able to adapt and stay patient when things don't go according to plan. Our own experience is a great example of this. While we were thrilled when our son began speaking all 3 of his languages by the age of 3, new challenges quickly arose when he started school. The influence of his peers and teachers became so much stronger, and he started to show a preference for English. But over time, we found ways to adapt and support his language journey, just as you will for your family. So let's explore 3 common challenges many families face and how you can navigate them with confidence and patience. Common challenge number 1, your child mixes languages. It's completely normal for multilingual children to mix languages. This phenomenon is known as code mixing or code switching. I've made a separate video exploring this topic. The link is in the description box below, and I highly recommend that you watch that video after this one. As you begin this journey, you are very likely to notice that your child is mixing languages. It might seem like your child is confused, but mixing languages is in fact a natural part of the language development. Children use all the tools they have at their disposal, and mixing languages is simply a way for them to communicate more efficiently when they might not know the word for something in one language but do in another. The most important thing is to remain calm and not to discourage your child when they mix languages. Instead of correcting them forcefully or very directly, you can try modeling the correct phrase in the target language. For example, if you're raising your child to speak Mandarin while living in the UK and your child says to you, "I want to eat 面条," which means noodles, you could respond in Chinese, "你想吃面条,真好吃." "Oh, you want to eat noodles? That sounds delicious." By providing gentle reinforcement, your child will gradually learn to separate the languages more clearly. Additionally, remember that code switching is a skill that even adults use. As your child's vocabulary expands in each language, the mixing will naturally reduce over time. Be patient and trust the process. Common challenge number 2, your child doesn't want to speak the target language after starting school. One of the most common challenges families face is that once the child starts school, they may gravitate towards the community language, the majority language, which is usually the language spoken by their friends and teachers. This can be especially discouraging for parents who have worked so hard to help their children become fluent in the home language. First, acknowledge that this shift is entirely normal. Children want to fit in with their friends, and they are likely spending most of their day immersed in the school's primary language. So instead of battling against this natural inclination, try to find ways to make the target language more fun and relevant at home. So here are some strategies that you can try to encourage target language use. First, incorporate it into everyday activities. If your child loves playing with the toys, watching TV, or using apps, try to find resources in the target language. Basically, create an environment where the language is part of their day-to-day life in an engaging and enjoyable way. For example, my son loves technology, and while I'm quite strict about screen time in general, we have started incorporating some technology into our Chinese routine. For example, we would search for things on Google or Baidu together, so my son can practice using pinyin in real life and learn to gather information in Chinese online, which is a useful skill to have. Secondly, spend quality time together using the target language. Whether it's reading a bedtime story, playing a game, or even cooking a meal, try to make the target language a part of the activities you do together. The goal is to reinforce the idea that the target language is not just for learning, but for living. And you can create those positive associations in your child's mind with the target language. Thirdly, connect with the culture. Explore the cultural aspects tied to the target language, such as food, holidays, and traditions. This helps your child see the language as something that goes beyond just words and grammar. For us, we try to make the most of Chinese New Year celebrations, helping our children connect with the culture in a more concrete and fun way. Essentially, you want to avoid turning language learning into a chore. The more you can foster positive, natural associations with the target language, the more likely your child will embrace it again. Having said that, it is really important to avoid falling into the slippery slope trap where your child gradually starts speaking the majority language at home with you and eventually loses the minority language. I see this time and again in real life. I've made a separate video about this. The link is in the description box below. Common language number 3, your child speaks the target language poorly. It can be hard not to worry if you feel like your child isn't progressing as quickly as you would like or is struggling to speak the target language fluently. In today's world, it's easy to compare your child's language abilities to others. But remember, every child's journey is different and the goal isn't perfection, it's progress. So what can you do? First, shift your mindset away from the idea that your child needs to reach a certain level of fluency by a certain time. Language acquisition is a marathon, not a sprint. I've used this analogy like 10 times in this video, but there really isn't a better analogy for it. So you just have to expect ups and downs along the way. Instead of focusing on how perfectly your child speaks the target language, focus on creating opportunities for them to use it in meaningful ways. And, praise their efforts rather than correcting every little single mistake. Language growth happens gradually and your child will improve over time with enough exposure and practice. And crucially, you must avoid comparing your child to others. I know it's really hard, especially in today's social media age, where images of perfection are just beamed at us 24/7, right? But remember, every child is different, every family is different. Forget about what other kids can do. What matters is your child's individual progress. If they are using more words in the target language than they were 6 months ago, that's progress. I've made a separate video about the 3 mindset shifts that have been game-changing for us as a family. The link is in the description box below. Remember, patience is key. Raising a multilingual child is an incredibly rewarding experience, but it does come with tons of challenges. Setbacks are inevitable, trust me, but they can be overcome with patience, persistence, and adaptability. Every family will face its own unique set of obstacles, but the most important thing is to keep your long-term goals in mind and stay flexible as your child's language needs evolve. With time, encouragement, and a resilient mindset, you'll be well equipped to navigate the challenges that come your way and help your child thrive as a multilingual individual. Congratulations on completing this 5-step mini course. I'm so excited that you've taken the first steps towards raising a bilingual or trilingual or multilingual child. As you've learned, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to language development, and every family's journey is unique. Whether you follow every step of this guide to the letter or adapt it to fit your family's specific needs, remember, progress, not perfection, is the goal. Raising a multilingual child is truly a lifelong journey. There will be moments of frustration, and sometimes progress may feel slow. I get it, I've been there myself. But really trust the process, celebrate every milestone, and be patient with the inevitable bumps along the way. Adjust your approach as needed, but always keep your long-term goals in sight. Most importantly, guys, enjoy the ride. By raising your child to speak more than one language, you are empowering them with access to new cultures, perspectives, and connections that will enrich their life in so many ways. Language is a gift that will keep on giving, and you're helping your child build something extraordinary. In our increasingly interconnected and globalized world, I really believe being multilingual will help your child thrive in the future as well as in the here and now. So after watching this video, here are your next steps. If you haven't already, download the free PDF ebook on which this mini course is based, so you'll have something to refer to at all times. You can even print it out if you want to. All the links are included below. In addition to the 5-step guide, I also highly recommend that you download my free language planning template to create a custom-made language plan for your family. Watch my video where you can follow along and write out a plan with me using that template. Once you've done that, write out your language plan and put it into action. Okay, I also suggest that you review your progress every 3 months or so to see how far you've come. And I'll also encourage you to explore the other resources I've created for families like yours. You can visit my blog for a completely free library of engaging and educational content. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you prefer video format content. And of course, for a more detailed guide, complete with activity ideas and additional tips to overcome common challenges, check out my full-length book, Bilingual and Trilingual Parenting 101, and Practical Handbook for Multilingual Families. Is packed with helpful advice, real-life examples, and a free cheat sheet to help you stay on track. It's sold thousands of copies since 2021, helping families just like yours. There you have it, folks. A super comprehensive video course plus a 48-page ebook jam-packed with information and actionable steps available for free. I've decided to make all this content available for free because I really want to deliver maximum value to multilingual families out there with accessible and relatable content. I want to help other parents just as that French dad helped me along my journey back in 2019. I hope that if I succeed in delivering value to other families, my platform here will grow as a result, and some of you may consider checking out my paid book, which only costs less than $10 in any case. Honestly, I don't sell expensive courses or anything like that. I make a decent living through my professional work as a translator. So I'm not hustling, to make a quick buck here on YouTube or online. I'm not even monetized on YouTube yet as of January 2025, so I haven't made a single penny from my video since I started uploading in 2023. If you got value out of this video and want to support my work, I would be really grateful if you could just subscribe to my channel, like my videos, and share my content with people who might benefit from it. And of course, share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. See you in my next video. Bye!